So this girl Sonia and I, we're both 27 now, dated for a couple of years in college. Wonderful girl, she had like the best taste in music and sense of humour, and was and is just the coolest person. I had to move across the country for grad school and broader work opportunities. That's the only reason we fell out of touch. But in the last couple of months we've been catching up. She called me out of the blue to let me know she heard from one of our mutuals that I was living nearby, and it turns out she's the next state over. I caught up with her parents, met her fiancé Mark, and we all got along well. They wanted me to attend their wedding this July, so I did. After the important part of the wedding was over, you may kiss the bride, the vows, yada yada, I made sure to congratulate her and her man, and then I just went over to the open bar. I guess I was bored or just not paying that much attention because I had a lot of drinks, and I was kind of wasted already before the reception started. So I took Sonia's dad aside and told him I was leaving and to tell the bride and groom I just didn't feel well. But Mark saw me and told me I had to stick around a bit longer and go to the reception since it was the best day of our lives. I wasn't thinking the clearest, so I was like, sure. Mistake. I was just sitting at the reception trying to eat like a normal person when I just started crying. I really don't cry that often, so I guess I have to blame the alcohol. I apologized and got out of there fast, but I know I must have made some kind of scene because the next day I got a phone call from Mark saying I ruined their wedding, and I needed to give Sonia and the rest of the family a formal apology in person. Sadly though, I've hit my yearly limit of humiliation, so I told him how about no and hung up. Sonia's not upset and doesn't consider her wedding ruined, but she thinks I should apologize to Mark just on principle so we can continue getting along the way we were, and that I did do a wrong thing technically by getting so intoxicated and leaving early. While she's right on that end, I did do my time at the wedding, and the only thing that could have potentially been ruined was the reception, so I don't know. Am I the idiot for getting really intoxicated and leaving my ex-girlfriend's wedding early? Just so happened to get intoxicated. I just so happened to cry for no reason. What are you not telling us? Or yourself? You are the idiot. Dude, you got intoxicated, started crying because you saw what you lost, and refused to say sorry because you don't want to face reality. Anytime you go to someone else's event and get so wasted that you can't control your emotions, you're an idiot. Well, he was pressured into staying, so it's an everyone's the idiot here at best. A wedding is an event, not a prison sentence. OP was invited to go, not ordered. To be clear, I'm not on the OP's side, he's pretty clearly in love with the bride. I just think we're ignoring an important part of the story. Oh boy, I would never talk to them again, and if I saw them in public, walk right past them. Maybe I'm a coward and all, but I don't think OP owes them another round of cringe. This is why no exes at the wedding is a thing. I disagree, you do owe an apology. You were irresponsible and made a scene. If you have to look your intoxicated mistake in the face, the shame will burn itself into you enough that you won't get so bored you forget that shots aren't a bowl of chips you can absent-mindedly entertain yourself with consuming. Mark didn't know how intoxicated you were when he asked you to stay, nor did he know you had unresolved feelings. He asked you to stay because he wanted you to celebrate. He didn't force you. It was on you to know your limits and leave before you embarrassed yourself. OMG, he's not in love. He's just like other single intoxicated people at weddings who are feeling sad sack because they were all alone. He doesn't necessarily want her, but she is the type he wants, and nothing was wrong with her. It was just stupid life in grad school. And what did grad school get him? Nothing but debt and no +1. And now she's beautiful and in love and he's all alone. Did I mention how alone? And how great she was, and he threw it all away for a degree that he's still paying for when he could be listening to cool music and laughing with a beautiful girl. It's not her. It was the idea of her in that intoxicated, depressing moment. Clearly none of you have spent any time with intoxicated women at weddings. My ex-wife and I had one son, Albert. When we split up, we both remarried. I remarried my current wife and we have a daughter and a son. She remarried as well and she had 2 sons. However, she divorced her husband, remarried and had another kid. So we'll call her second husband Carl and her current husband Dan. Now here's the problem. Carl is my ex-wife's ex-husband. He's not related to my son, he's just Albert's former, emphasis on former, stepfather. Carl wants to maintain a relationship with Albert, but apparently my ex told him to kick rocks and that his biological children are the only kids he's entitled to see. Carl eventually decided he would go through me since he wasn't making headway with my ex. I shut that down. I hardly know Carl, and what little I do know of him irritates me. He told me he bonded with Albert and doesn't want him to have abandonment issues. I talked to Albert, he feels no abandonment issues, and when I asked him if he missed Carl, he said no. Carl said I'm an insensitive idiot. He asked me how I would feel if I was told I could never see one of my kids again. I said Albert isn't one of his kids, so stay away from him and leave me the heck alone. My wife said I was a little intense with my statement, and she kind of understands where Carl is coming from, because if we were ever to, God forbid, split up, she would miss Albert too. I don't see how this is my problem. My ex is the one who married him, not me. He needs to talk to her. Apparently Dan hates Carl, and that's why Carl can't see Albert, but why is that my issue? I feel no obligation to this man. Am I the idiot for that? Edit. He was Albert's stepdad for 7 years, basically. So it appears in this situation that no one likes Carl. Sorry, Carl, you're out. He shouldn't have gone through you and not your problem, but he was there for a pretty big part of his upbringing and it's understandable to try. Honestly, makes me never want to be a stepdad, raise a kid and be there, both financially and otherwise, just to be told to screw off. Although then there's the why. Why did they divorce? Why do both you and the new husband not like him? Then also the part of the siblings, if now he'll forbid your kid from seeing his siblings if he has custody that day or week. Although with 2 baby daddies and a husband there's bound to be plenty of issues to come. He was Albert's other dad for 7 years. 7? That's not an insignificant amount of time, and I'd also be heartbroken not to have access to Albert anymore. He's trying to do his best for his son and is being told to screw off for caring about a kid he raised. Imagine if instead he just showed up, only took his kids, took them on amazing days out, and totally left your lad out of it. That would be crappy. Instead, he wants to include him and is taking crap for it. What's wrong with you? You are the idiot. Kindness goes a long way. Long story short, I'm not exactly comfortable around women, and I do what I can to minimize my interactions with females as much as I can. It has nothing to do with capabilities or anything, I just get extremely uncomfortable. We have a new hire that's been trying to get to know people around the office better, and I just excuse myself when she comes around. Thankfully, I work in the field a lot, so I'm often alone, so it doesn't happen often, but when I do come to the office, she keeps trying to befriend or talk to me. I'm civil and polite, I say hello, and I can handle idle chit-chat, even if visibility is uncomfortable for me. She brought this up with my friend in the office, and he explained the situation, and since then, she's made it her mission to have me open up. On Friday, I asked if she could leave me alone, please, that I have no intention of becoming her friend or open up. She lashed out and called me a misogynistic idiot. I thought about it over the weekend, and it has been racking my brain. Am I really the idiot for not wanting to put myself in uncomfortable situations if I can avoid it? If I have to take her out in the field or help explain my drafts, I will push through since it's work-related. I still get uncomfortable, but it is what it is. I can't avoid those situations, but in general interactions I don't think it's wrong of me to limit those when possible. On the other hand, I also understand this is a problem for me. I go to therapy, but that only does so much. This is rooted in trauma, and I'm uncomfortable writing about it. She shouldn't be punished for her own issues, so am I the idiot? Edit, I am in therapy, and overall I'm okay where I am in my job. Sadly, therapy is not some magic bullet capable of fixing all forms of trauma. I've been at this for years. Trust me, I used not to be able to leave my house. I've made a lot of progress, and I'm proud of it. Treating women like they're a completely different species from you is not exactly trying very hard. You need more therapy and a new therapist. You will have many female co-workers. You will have female bosses. You will never have female employees because you won't get promoted until you fix these issues you have. You are limiting yourself and alienating your co-workers. This will be noticed. Good luck. OMG, you are the idiot. Referring to women as females is what that person is talking about. It's clinical and dehumanizing, if not in a strictly medical environment. Most women have experienced trauma at the hands of men, and we still have to be polite to them. I'm mentally ill with severe anxiety, so I'm not trying to be dismissive, but you can't treat an entire half of the world differently based on an arbitrary characteristic. Not the idiot. This guy's been going through years of therapy even to leave the house, let alone work in a comfortable environment around women, and you're getting hung up over him using impolite terminology? I don't understand how he's the idiot for setting boundaries in the workplace. If a woman posted that she was in therapy because past experiences made her feel uncomfortable around men, you would not be so callous. That she tried and was able to be around them for work, but being friends with a man was outside her comfort zone at the moment, and she was working on it, but a man at work wouldn't leave her alone. I get so frustrated with these double standards disguised as misogyny. Everyone who said, if you was a woman you'd be okay with it, is honestly dead wrong. Like, people are seriously trying to argue that discriminating against someone in the workplace is okay, and they really think they can defend it by saying, if it was reversed. While trauma and mental health issues are tough, and most workplaces will do what they can to accommodate them, there is no allowance for, my mental trauma makes me discriminatory against a protected class, so you have to accommodate that. That wouldn't and shouldn't fly. Update. Thanks for all the replies. I'm going to talk to my boss about this since we have to head up to New York, so we can talk about this on the drive to the airport. I don't want to bring this up with HR because I don't want her to get reprimanded or written up over a first offence. I'll see what my boss has to say. She's a talented drafter, I don't want to lose her over this. Also, I had no idea female and women could not be used interchangeably. I'm a math and science guy. I have a college account for each kid. They all have around 50,000 at the moment. Now, my oldest went to trade school and we used his account to pay for that. It was relatively cheap. My daughter went to a small cheap community college before she dropped out. She's now married and a stay-at-home mom. So both accounts still have a ton of money, and the two kids are well established at this point. The oldest makes 6 figures at this point, and my daughter married well off, and if they divorce she would get a lot. So I entered the accounts to use for my retirement. I mentioned it at dinner and they were angry, saying they still deserve the money, even though it was for college only and they never put a cent in. They both called me an idiot. They asked why I could retire early. I told them the reason. I wasn't going to hide it. They knew the money was in the account. It would have come up eventually, if not for them, but asking if they could use the extra for their kids. So am I the idiot for using my kids' college accounts for my retirement? Not the idiot. You paid for their education with your money. Whatever's left over is yours to do what you want. I mentioned it at dinner. Mother of God, why? Stop telling people stuff. Put people on information diets. Oversharing put you in this position. Yeah, there was no need to tell them anything. LOL. We save a reasonable amount for our kids' education, and my wife and I will approve all uses of this money before they get access to any of it. After education is paid, if they're responsible people, we'll gift them the balances towards a home purchase, and if they don't have their crap together, we will retire earlier. It's heartbreaking that your kids turned out so greedy that they're angry you don't want to gift them the money you saved up for their education, and they didn't fully use it, rather than being happy for you that it allows you to retire early. Especially if they're both very well off now, I would in fact scold my parents why they didn't use the money sooner for their retirement, because, you know, I loved them. Were they always this greedy, or did the greed come with higher incomes? OP, you're not the idiot, but it sure sounds like you raised a couple of entitled ones. My daughter Casey has struggled with lying throughout her life, from little things like I had Wendy's for lunch when she had McDonald's, up to big things like I got into a fight at school when she didn't. We started her in therapy when she was around 8 years old to try to get to the root of it. Even she couldn't see why she was lying. We tried 3 different therapists, but they all seemed to think it was age appropriate. My husband and I focused on teaching her the repercussions of lies, making sure she knew she could come to us with anything, etc. We've always been the type to let our kids make mistakes, while knowing we'll always be there with no judgment, just there to help them do better. Things got somewhat better as she got older. There'd be the occasional small white lie, but she got better when we talked about it. When Casey came out as a lesbian at 16, we were supportive and treated her girlfriend as one of the family. Issues arose when the lying began again and Casey became rather aggressive. We took her back to therapy and she was diagnosed with BPD. She refused treatment. We did all we could to get her in, but she was diagnosed shortly before she turned 18, so there was very little we could do. After a really bad incident, we told her she either sought help that we'd pay for or she had to leave. She chose to leave. A few years later, she finally agreed to accept help. She's now 23 and doing a bit better. Casey works as a DEI, Diversity, Equality and Inclusion Manager for a company. For Pride Month, the company showcased LGBTQ+ employees sharing their stories. I was excited to read Casey's when she shared it on Facebook. My heart sank when I read it. Casey wrote that her parents were not supportive when she came out. She added that we kicked her out the house for a week after she told us, but took her back when we were guilted into it. I tried to reach out to Casey, but she didn't answer. So many people in her Facebook comment section were apologizing for her traumatizing experience. They were attacking me and my husband. I finally commented that none of this was true, and it was extremely hurtful to see this narrative spun. Casey finally replied and said I needed to remove my comment. She said it's just a way to get clicks. I said it was a lie and she posted it so everyone could see, making us look bad. I shared how hurt I was that yet again she was lying for attention. She then deleted my comment for me. I made a post showing the various Pride events we went to, pictures of her girlfriend on vacation with us, even videos Casey took of herself and the two of us discussing her journey, etc. I tagged Casey in it. Some still back her up, but most have apologized to me. Her girlfriend finally called her out on it and said I've always been nice to her. She's mad at me, saying I'm making her look bad and saying I don't understand how stuff like this works. Am I the idiot? She made you look bad when she lied about you. Were you just supposed to do nothing about that? What does she mean when she says you don't understand how stuff like this works? Not only are you not the idiot, but Casey is making it actively harder for other LGBTQ people. The bigots and haters are going to latch onto Casey's made-up story of trauma and use her example to belittle other people who actually have to deal with unsupportive families. OP, you may want to consider distancing yourself from her. She's actively trying to cause you and your husband harm. I know she's your daughter, but I'm worried you'll be on the receiving end of worse. Next, it might be accusations of abuse. What would you do then? You could lose everything you've built. People take this stuff seriously and they might come after you and your husband with pitchforks next. Her next accusation could result in losing your job, reputation, maybe even police investigations and whatever else. This is seriously concerning. I have no idea why her girlfriend didn't call her out sooner. Why did she wait? It seems you can't count on her having your back until it's too late, despite you being accepting of her. I'm sorry this is happening.